prisoners escape from some of the toughest prisons in the world in the craziest ways you can't even imagine. Whether it's breaking out in a Hollywood-style escape or using something as simple as soup to get free, fooling guards with fake dummy heads, or even mocking them by locking them up in a cell. Let's kick things off with two inmates who pulled off the impossible by making a female prison employee fall in love with them and then using her to escape. Richard Matt and David Sweat were both serving life sentences for murder at Clinton Correctional Facility, surrounded by 40 feet tall concrete walls, armed watchtowers, and layered fencing lined with razor wire. On the morning of June 6, 2015, correctional officers at Clinton Correctional Facility began their routine bed checks. When they reached the cells of Richard Matt and David Sweat, everything seemed normal at first. Both men appeared to be asleep under their blankets, but when the officers tried to wake them, they received no response. Kind of like the women you text on Tinder. They pulled back the covers, and the inmates were not there. What looked like sleeping bodies were actually crude dummies made from bundled clothing and stuffed under the sheets. By the time the officers sounded the alarm, the two inmates were already gone. A full lockdown was ordered, and a manhunt was launched, one that would grow to involve hundreds of law enforcement officers, helicopters, and K-9 units sweeping the dense surrounding forest. But how had they managed to break out of such a high-security facility? It turned out that both men had been quietly planning their escape for months, with the help of a civilian prison employee named Joyce Mitchell. Mitchell worked in the prison's sewing shop and had developed personal relationships with both inmates. The woman in this case provided the inmates with hacksaw blades, chisels, and other tools, smuggling them in by hiding them inside frozen packages of meat. The meat was then sent to the prison's industrial kitchen, where Richard Matt had access. Each night, the two men used those tools to cut through the steel back walls of their adjoining cells, breaking into a maintenance corridor that ran behind the cell block. From there, they navigated a maze of pipes, tunnels, and service platforms beneath the prison, just like a typical Mario world. Eventually, they reached a manhole cover just outside the perimeter wall and emerged into the night. Inside one of the tunnels, they left a note. It read, "Have a nice day," with a smiley face. Joyce Mitchell was supposed to pick them up after their escape, but she backed out at the last moment, overcome with guilt and fear. She later confessed and was sentenced to 7 years in prison for her role.
I confess, I'm turning them in, because I want to stay the hell out of prison.
Alright, good job. The court sentences you to 7 years in prison.
Wait, what the fuck?
The escape triggered a massive 3-week search across rural New York. Richard Matt was shot by authorities near the Canadian border and did not survive. David Sweat was captured 2 days later, just a mile and a half from the same area. He was wounded during the arrest but survived, and was returned to prison under even tighter security.
Hey Steve, you remember the "Have a nice day" note? Oh yeah, I still wonder who wrote it.
At least I had a woman on my side. When's the last time a woman even said hi to you?
Next up on the list, Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary. Built on a rocky island in the middle of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz was surrounded by cold, fast-moving waters and the constant roar of the sea. Its isolated location made escape seem nearly impossible. Inside, the prison was equally unforgiving. Reinforced steel doors, strict schedules, constant headcounts, and some of the tightest security measures of its time. But in June 1962, 3 inmates, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, did something no one thought was possible. They disappeared. The discovery came on the morning of June 12th. During the routine count, guards approached the cells, only to find what looked like the men sleeping in their beds. But when they tried to wake them, something was off. What they thought were sleeping bodies turned out to be dummy heads, sculpted from soap, paper, and even human hair collected from the prison barbershop. So how did the inmates actually escape? Over the course of nearly a year, the men gathered stolen and improvised tools, not from outside, but from within the prison itself. They scavenged metal spoons from the dining hall, sharpened them using concrete floors, and even converted a broken vacuum cleaner motor into a makeshift drill using spare parts from the prison's maintenance workshops. Frank Morris, the apparent mastermind, was highly intelligent. He reportedly had an IQ well above average, and he put that to use by quietly organizing the operation and assigning tasks. Together, they took turns digging small holes around the ventilation grates at the back of their cells, using these tools at night and hiding the evidence during the day. To avoid being caught, they used cardboard and painted papier-mâché covers to conceal the holes, making them look like untouched parts of the wall. By the time guards walked by for bed checks, everything looked perfectly normal. It's like when parents suddenly enter their kid's room and find them staring at the desktop wallpaper. Behind those holes was an unmonitored utility corridor, just wide enough to crawl through. From there, they climbed to the roof, made their way down the outer wall, and reached the shore, like something straight out of a stealth video game.
Must have been the wind.
But this wasn't just a matter of running once you're out. The men had secretly constructed a makeshift raft and life vests, all made from over 50 raincoats they had stolen and stitched together. On the night of the escape, they launched that raft into the cold, dark waters of San Francisco Bay and were never seen again. Despite an intensive search by the FBI, Coast Guard, and local police, no bodies were ever recovered. Authorities believed the men most likely drowned, but with no physical evidence, the case was left open. Moving on to the next one in the list, John Dillinger. His escape is one of the most daring ever. Most prisoners sneak out in the shadows, but Dillinger strolled out past stunned guards, locking them up like it was nothing. And if that wasn't bold enough, he taunted them before vanishing. In 1934, John Dillinger was nabbed and locked in Crown Point Jail. This wasn't just any jail, it was billed as escape-proof. Reinforced steel bars, armed guards around the clock, and a sheriff, Lillian Hawley, so confident she let Dillinger pose for grinning press photos behind bars. But on March 3rd, 1934, Dillinger drove straight out of that fortress. No resistance in sight. And he wasn't in just any car. He stole Sheriff Hawley's personal Ford V8. Alongside him was another inmate, Herbert Youngblood. The two of them looked so calm, you'd think they had just finished a night shift at Walmart and were heading home for breakfast. But how did he actually pull this off? That morning, Dillinger was out of his cell for routine exercise. That's when Sam Cahoon, a prison trustee, entered the yard. A trustee is an inmate who's earned special privileges due to good behavior. Cahoon was carrying soap bars for the showers. Dillinger stepped up behind him and pressed a gun into his back. Good thing was, the prison trustee didn't drop his soap bars out of shock. Cahoon didn't take any chances. He handed over the keys. Dillinger moved fast. One by one, he approached the guards, held up the pistol, and ordered them into cells. By the end of it, he had disarmed and locked up nearly a dozen officers, including Warden Lou Baker. There was also another inmate, Herbert Youngblood, facing a possible death sentence. Dillinger unlocked his cell, and the two continued deeper into the jail. They reached either an office or the armory. But what they found was exactly what Dillinger had been hoping for: 2 Thompson submachine guns, fully loaded. Before leaving, Dillinger returned to the cell holding the captured guards. He held up the gun, smirked, and revealed the truth. The gun he used to intimidate the guards was actually a fake, made out of wood and darkened with shoe polish to make it look real. They had all been outwitted by a piece of polished wood. The humiliation was complete. Dillinger and Youngblood headed to the garage. Instead of taking any regular car to escape, Dillinger stole Sheriff Lillian Hawley's Ford V8 sedan. With no one left to stop them, they drove out the front gate unchallenged. By stealing the car and crossing state lines, Dillinger triggered federal charges, giving the FBI full authority to pursue him. Youngblood was caught in a shootout not long after the escape and didn't make it out alive. After his famous escape, Dillinger managed to stay on the run for a few months. But on July 22nd, 1934, the FBI received a tip that he would be watching a movie at the Biograph Theater in Chicago. Agents surrounded the area and waited. As Dillinger stepped out of the theater, he noticed something was off and quickly tried to walk away. When agents moved in, he ran toward a nearby alley. That's when federal agents opened fire.
What? You think I don't have a gun? Oh shit, it's the fake one.
The next one on the list is Pascal Payet. Imagine a prison break so daring it feels ripped from a Hollywood thriller. In October 2001, Payet was locked in Luynes prison in southern France. But on October 12th, a hijacked helicopter roared into the prison courtyard. Earlier that day, armed men stormed a nearby airfield, forcing a pilot at gunpoint to fly straight to Luynes. As the chopper touched down, guards scrambled, staring skyward in disbelief. Payet and another inmate, Frederick Paco, bolted from the courtyard, leapt into the helicopter, and were airborne in under a minute. The accomplices fired their automatic weapons to scare the guards and keep them back. The chopper vanished over the horizon, landing in a remote field where a getaway car waited, and melted into the French countryside. Payet's run came to a halt in 2005 when Spanish police finally caught him. Sentenced to 30 years for murder, he became a high-risk inmate, too slippery to trust in one place. In just 2.5 years, he was shuffled between 9 different prisons like a cursed game of hot potato. On July 14th, 2007, 4 masked men hijacked a helicopter, forced the pilot to land on the prison's boiler room roof, and got to work, sawing through 2 locked doors like it was just another Tuesday. With surgical precision, they reached Payet's isolation cell and pulled him into the chopper. The guards could only watch as he vanished into the Mediterranean sky. He stayed off the radar for nearly 3 months before police finally tracked him down in Barcelona. Payet was thrown into extreme solitary. No cellmates, no contact, no cracks to slip through. Most prisoners lose their rights. Payet lost his frequent flyer miles. Talking about prison escapes and not mentioning this guy would be a crime. Not literally. In 1936, Yoshi Shiratori, once a fisherman and factory worker, was locked up for theft and murder, charges based on a forced confession.
Admit it. You are the murderer. No, I swear I didn't do anything. Murderer says what? What? Ha! Got him.
He claimed he was innocent, but the guards at Aomori prison didn't care. Shiratori made up his mind. He wasn't going to rot in there. One morning, as guards slid his breakfast through the cell slot, they peeked inside and froze. The cell was empty. No broken bars, no signs of struggle, just an empty bed. The prison went into full lockdown. They searched every corner, but Shiratori had vanished. Everyone was thinking the same thing. How did he pull this off? He studied the guards and found a 15-minute window each morning when no one checked on his cell. During a bath, he took a thin wire from a bucket and smuggled it back, tucked beneath his clothes, completely unnoticed by the guards.
Oh, it's fine. Totally natural. Happens to me too when I see you guys bathing. I shouldn't have said that.
At night, he used it to practice picking his cuffs. His cell had a small, cracked skylight most guards ignored. Too tight to matter, one night in June, he stacked floorboards under his blanket to fake a sleeping body. When the coast was clear, he picked the lock, climbed up, squeezed through the skylight, and slipped out. He was free, but only for 3 days. Hunger pushed him to steal from a hospital, and he was caught. In 1941, now sentenced to life, Shiratori was sent to Akita prison, one of Japan's most secure. Guards already knew his name. This time, they shackled him 24/7 in a high-security cell with smooth copper walls and a high skylight. The winters were brutal. Escape seemed impossible. Until one morning in 1942, his cell was empty again. No noise, no break-in, no clue how he got out. Guards were left scratching their heads. How did he manage it this time? It started with the handcuffs. They caused his wrists to swell so badly that the guards were forced to remove them from time to time. Shiratori used those rare moments of freedom to his advantage. Slowly, quietly, he began training his body, learning to dislocate his shoulders so he could slip through impossibly tight spaces. All the while, he worked on the skylight. The frame was rotting. Every day, he loosened it just a little, carefully hiding the damage so no one would notice. Then came the perfect night. The rain was heavy, the wind howled, and the storm masked every sound. He seized the moment, scaling the smooth copper walls using only his hands and feet. Inch by inch, he pulled himself up and vanished through the gap. He was free again. For 3 months, he survived in hiding, living off scraps and whatever he could find. Eventually, desperate and exhausted, he approached a kind-hearted guard from his past, hoping for mercy, but the guard turned him in.
Oh, don't worry. I know just the place for you. I knew I could trust you. What the? Bro, seriously?
In 1944, Shiratori was sent to Abashiri Prison, Japan's most feared facility. Surrounded by frozen wilderness, escape wasn't just impossible, it was unthinkable. His cell was a bare, icy box. He had only summer clothes to wear, even in the dead of winter. Food slid in through a small tray slot at the bottom of the door. They thought they had him, but one morning, he was gone. Again, no one could believe it. The miso soup they gave him every day, it was loaded with salt, and salt rusts metal. Bit by bit, he began smearing it on his handcuffs and the bolts around the food slot. Guards kept watching the ceiling, worried about another skylight stunt, but Shiratori was focused on the floor. On August 26, 1944, during a wartime blackout, he made his move. He slipped free from the weakened cuffs, contorted his body, and inch by inch, squeezed through the food tray slot.
Must have been the wind.
For nearly a year, he survived in the mountains of Hokkaido, hiding in an abandoned mine and living off berries and scraps. Then in 1946, hungry and desperate, he tried to steal a few tomatoes from a local farm. The farmer attacked him, and in the struggle, the man died. Shiratori claimed it was self-defense. But this time, they arrested him for murder. That same year, he was sentenced to death and sent to Sapporo prison. 6 guards took turns watching him around the clock. No cuffs this time, because no one believed escape was even an option. But spoiler alert, Shiratori escaped again. Locked doors, concrete walls, guards everywhere. The only question left, how did he do it? Each night he used his miso soup bowl to dig under the floor. He scraped slowly, hiding the dirt beneath the floorboards. And to mislead the guards, he kept glancing at the ceiling like he was plotting another vertical escape. They bought it. After months of digging, the tunnel was complete. In 1947, he crawled through it and escaped for the 4th time. But this time, he didn't disappear. In 1948, exhausted and worn down, Shiratori approached a police officer sitting in a park. He asked for a cigarette, and then, casually, he confessed. The officer took him in, but this time, the court reevaluated his case. They ruled the farmer's death as self-defense. Instead of the death penalty, Shiratori was sentenced to 20 years for all the escapes. He served 13 years at Fuchu prison before his release in 1961. Reunited with his daughter, Shiratori lived quietly until his death in 1979 from a heart attack. So these were some of the craziest ways people escape prison, and yet you can't even escape awkward social gatherings. Anyway, if you liked this video, you can subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. And if you didn't like it, you can hit the dislike button twice.